This is Raise Your Voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I am your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co-host, Darby Robinson, and we are live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice and also available wherever you get your podcasts. If you love what we do here on Raise Your Voice, you want to say thank you, you can head on over to patreon.com/raiseyourvoice and become a member for as little as $1 a month. Darby, the winter meetings just wrapped up. We wanted to wait to pod for a couple of days in case another blockbuster trade or the Rays made another free agent signing. They've made quite a few, more than a lot of teams so far this offseason, and we'll get to all of those. But the dust has settled from the winter meetings. It was it was pretty exciting. There were some big deals that we'll talk about. But one move that came right before the winter meetings that I want to discuss first is the Rays signing of outfielder Cedric Mullins. He'll make $7.5 million in 2026. There is an option for a mutual option for the second year, and I do not know the total salary on that. But really, when it's a mutual option, you really just have to look at it as a one-year deal for $7.5 million to bring in Cedric Mullins, a guy who on this very show you mentioned as a possible option for the Rays this offseason. What were your thoughts on that signing?
I think this is a perfect signing for this team and something they've kind of missed. And it's not necessarily that I think Cedric Mullins is a huge bounce back guy. I do think he is a good bounce back player. I think as a player last year, even kind of disappointing season, but if you look at with Baltimore, the first 100 and some odd games, pretty typical Cedric Mullins season, like pretty darn good. Like he had a very, very strong April and it definitely trailed after that. Like he definitely had some things that he needs to work on, but Cedric Mullins has been around long enough. He's also just turned 30. Like he's not like completely broken down. This is a guy that I think you can chalk up a lot of last year to saying like, you know what, we believe in the player that you've shown over time. And I just think the Rays kind of needed a guy they needed another person that can play center field. I think that's important. I think, was it Brett, you said in the Slack, basically, you're like, not too many steps away from Tristan Peters being like your main center fielder.
Yeah.
That's not a good place to be. No offense to Tristan Peters, but like, that's not where you want to be. So you need another person that plays center field, but also I think you need like the Cedric Mullins type, a guy who has been widely respected as a great clubhouse guy, like top tier baseball person, like a top tier person in baseball, I should say. Put the person first and then the baseball player second. Somebody that can take a lot of these young guys like Johnny DeLuca, Chandler Simpson, Carson Williams, Junior Caminero, Jonathan Aranda. Like he is an elder statesman in the league. He's been around. He's been on some good Baltimore teams. He has won before.
A part of a rebuilding Baltimore team, right? A team like
yes.
in the Rays it's been 2 straight seasons without a postseason. Like this has not been a full tear down and rebuild like Mullins was a part of in Baltimore. But he was a part of a young team that, finally did go back and reach the postseason. Mm-hmm. And that experience, like you said, for the Williams and the Camineros, who are those top prospects that are hoping that we hope that they bring the Rays back into the postseason. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think in general, like in that clubhouse, the Rays have lacked a lot of those leader types, right? I think there's different ways of leading. There's different ways to be either you're vocal, you're lead by example, all that. I think it can be helpful to bring in different voices, different experience, and some veteran leadership. And I think in general, Cedric Mullins just raises the floor on this roster. I think one of the things these last 2 seasons that have really hurt was that the team had very low basements and like the bottom fell out on a lot of that. There was some ceiling there. Josh Lowe is a pretty good example. Like the ceiling is still really high. Like the ceiling is still like a 5-tool player, but the basement is getting deeper and soggier and more. There's a lot more black mold down there than you really thought, and you're kind of developing a cough. Cedric Mullins is a guy who I think you may not have the ceiling anymore, but the floor is much higher than a lot of these guys. So you're going into the season and you're not like, okay, Jake Mangum has to repeat that. That might have been his best season. Chandler Simpson has to get really good on defense really quickly. Ryan Vlade has to, there's like, okay, yes, maybe. Like Cedric Mullins is like, yeah, okay, he's pretty solid. Similar to what we were talking about with like Jake Fraley, maybe not the most sexy player option, like the stat line isn't wowing you, but that's a lot of good major league swings and a lot of good major league seasons under his belt to say like, okay, they've been around, they've seen a lot of pitches, they've had, 1,000 at bats. Like that's something useful to add to a team.
Yeah, we talked about, we did the outfield autopsy in an episode or two ago, and going into 2025, I think the reason we didn't have big alarm bells going off about that outfield is that the projected starting outfield at the beginning of the year, I think we were fine with. You had Josh Lowe in right field. It looked like it was going to be a lot of Johnny DeLuca in center field, and then left field, it was going to be like a Richie Palacios, Christopher Morel platoon, and guys were going to move around, but that was going to be your core four outfielders. And then like three of those guys were hurt like most of the season. And then Morel, didn't play. So whatever. And we never got to see that outfield. And we saw after those early, onslaught of injuries, what it's like when your outfield is Chandler Simpson and Jake Mangum and Cameron Meisner, who I like all three of those guys for different reasons.
They all played pretty well too.
I've gotten to watch them with the Durham Bulls. I'm big fans of those guys. That's not who you want your starting outfield to be.
Yeah.
And you go into the season where, I think the joke I made was that you're like a couple of strained obliques away from Tristan Peters being your everyday guy. And while I will push back that like Cedric Mullins definitely raises the floor, and the reason I'm pushing back is he is 30 now. Last year was a bad season. It was, I think, the highest strikeout rate of his career. He still did hit 17 home runs. I think there's reason to believe the defense is going to take a step back as he continues to age. I don't know if we've seen like the worst that Cedric Mullins can be. And he is in his 30s. And if you look in the history of Major League Baseball, like, why did that guy just stop playing well all of a sudden? Oh, he turned 30 or he turned 31. Yeah. Like for most players, that's what happens. I still think that signing Cedric Mullins for $7.5 million, I think it's $7 million in salary for 25 and a $500,000 buyout of the mutual option. So he's basically guaranteed 7.5, and then he would be owed $10 million if the mutual option is picked up. But these things hardly are. The other thing you can do with Cedric Mullins is if he's a part-time player, or let's say a guy that plays in 60% of your games, right? And you're out of contention, well, you just trade him. They did the same thing with Danny Jansen. Like Mullins was traded this past season, and then Danny Jansen comes back, and they get Jadier Rynamo, who seems to be like a decent prospect. They got back in return. So the Rays are always willing to do this. Sign a veteran to a short deal. If we're not in contention, you're not getting, out of this what you expected, and vice versa. We can just move you, right? Like we're okay with doing that. And then, what's the alternative? Then you just hand the keys back over to Jake Mangum to fill that role. Fine. He's cheap. He's like a year younger than Cedric Mullins. He's not that much younger. So I like this signing. I'm not convinced that Cedric Mullins is going to be a good player for the Rays. I think we could continue to see a decline. Now, when he first met with Rays media, I think it was Mark Topkin that kind of asked him about this. Like, last year you struggled more than really any season you had before. What do you think went into that, and how are you looking to bounce back? And Cedric Mullins was honest that, pitchers made adjustments on him, and he didn't make those adjustments in turn. He'll get another go at it this year. And I also think we're going to return to a Rays outfield that isn't like penned in starters for left, center, or right. I think you're going to see a lot more chopping and changing. I think, with how left-handed they are, and I expect that to change before opening day, the platoons aren't going to be as straight up as lefty-righty. Kind of returning to the Kevin Cash that we know and love, the manager of the year winning Kevin Cash, where there's a new lineup every day. The reasons the lineups are written, it's not just a straight lefty-righty move. You don't really know what the thought process is there, but it was working and the Rays were winning games. I think we could see that. And the Rays have a lot of options out there. I don't think all of them will stick around, but I also think throwing numbers at this problem is not a bad plan to try and improve the outfield.
that's the thing. That's the part of Cedric Mullins that I think you have a good point that like there absolutely could be a deeper floor than I'm saying it. But I do think that is the thing, right? Is you're adding major leaguers to the issue, not more rookies to hopefully solve it. Because you have not gotten rid of Jake Mangum. You still have Chandler Simpson. You still have, I mean, right now you still have everybody we talked about plus now Jake Fraley and Cedric Mullins to that. So there's going to be some still changing, but like I would rather have, 5 outfielders who I feel like could work,
Yeah.
and hopefully
And
3,
it
maybe
breeds
2
competition.
work, and then you trade something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the 3 left-handed hitting outfielders. I'm gonna exclude Richie Palacios from the conversation. I think he falls into a different bucket. But Josh Lowe, Cedric Mullins, and Jake Fraley, any of those 3 are expendable. Mullins is gonna make the most money this year, and you would maybe only DFA him or cut him like late into the season. But Josh Lowe, Jake Fraley. I'm sorry, Josh Lowe, this is your 3rd year. Like you've had back-to-back down years. If you do not perform April, May, like you're probably just DFA'd, and that's that. And you've had your chance, like you've had your fair shot. So it's either, put up or shut up. Jake Fraley, a guy was a waiver claim, right? Like, then they non-tendered him and re-signed him as a free agent. So I think that was the first of now 3 major league free agent signings for the Rays. There's no loyalty to he came from the organization, but you could cut ties with Jake Fraley at some point. It really is going to be who plays the most and who earns the most playing time, and then we can trade or DFA and make room, for Chandler Simpson, who I didn't include in that left-handed hitting outfielders, those list of names right there. So yeah, I like this signing, and if you combine it with the Jake Fraley signing, which is for what? How much money was the $3 million for Jake Fraley? It's a better bet than betting on either Cedric Mullins or Jake Fraley to have like a league average bat, is betting on both of them and hoping that all you need is one of them to hit. Yep. Like if one of them works out, that for $10 million, that is a bet I'll make every time. And Mullins can play center field. Like Fraley, more of a corner outfielder. Mullins, the premium for center field. I think these are the moves. Like, this is not necessarily new from Eric Neander. These aren't too dissimilar to signing Danny Jansen or Hassan Kim.
Totally, yeah.
And those didn't work out, and I'm not guaranteed this is going to work out, but I don't hate Neander for trying these type of moves again, because if the team is good, having that veteran presence like Mullins is going to pay dividends, I think.
Yeah, I think the process is there. I think the results, we'll see what happens, but I think you keep throwing good bets on the felt, and eventually you're going to hit more than you're not. And sometimes it's not your night, but I think that's the type of move that I want to see. And I'm curious to see what else happens in the outfield, because I don't think this is done. I think there's still going to be more moves. I just feel like this is it's not set yet. I just don't think this is the lineup this is the outfield rotation that's going into this.
Yeah. The odd man out in some ways feels like Richie Palacios. I think the reason you maybe haven't moved on from Richie Palacios, and we'll get to this later, is like you're unsure about what second base looks like next year, and Palacios offers an option at second base for you if you decided to trade Brandon Lowe. So we'll get to that, but he feels like the odd man out for the outfield.
He does, but he's like, also, who do you think is going to be a better player next year, Richie Palacios or Jake Mangum?
But Jake Mangum, I don't feel like even now would make the opening day roster. Probably. I mean, if you've got Fraley, Mullins, DeLuca, Lowe, and Vlade, that's 5 outfielders. Mangum, Simpson, Peters in AAA. And then Vlade can be the guy that plays a little bit of infield as well. Because the Rays, they're never going to keep 5 pure outfielders on the active roster. It's always going to be someone that can play both infield and outfield.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that also is throwing us off is that we keep putting Chandler Simpson in Durham. I don't know if that's actually where he's penciled in. Like, Neander has talked about Chandler Simpson, and listen, GMs talk about everybody in glowing terms right now, but like, is there a chance that like Chandler Simpson is on the opening day roster?
Sure, if you trade Josh Lowe.
I think that's right. You have too many lefties. That's the thing.
Yeah, if you trade Josh Lowe, Simpson, is maybe it's Mangum over Simpson at that point still.
Still, yeah. I think we both put like Chandler down there because it's the best opportunity for him to get center field.
But the great thing is that's not a decision you need to make on December 11th.
Exactly.
Don't let anyone, all these players are all professionals. They're all, I'm sure, working really hard this offseason to get ready, but that's real competition at all parts of the stuff for the starters and for the bench. It's survival of the fittest. We'll see. But yeah, there could be more moves. There could be a weird trade. Palacios could be traded. That could clear up some stuff there.
You made a great point though, and this is the one thing about this outfield, as it's still in flux, is that it is a real competition. And I think your point about that this is the most flexible outfield in the sense that like Jake Fraley, you could get rid of at any moment. Josh Lowe, that's 2 down years in a row. So if he's still going down, whatever, you can get rid of him. It's you couldn't get rid of Josh Lowe last year because that's just 1 down year.
Yeah,
a former first round pick. You kind of have to ride it out. Now you're like, okay, a down month, a really disastrously bad April, and you could be like, we're done.
The bet with Josh Lowe is like, okay, he has very little trade value right now after back-to-back down years. He's been hurt. There's a lot of concerns. Like some of the concerns that we had of him as a prospect are he had one really strong year, but after that, it's been more of what we thought we might get with Josh Lowe when he first came up. And so he's got very little trade value right now, but you know what he's capable of. So wouldn't you just pay him and you make the gamble? Like what I said going into the offseason is that you can afford to sign a bunch of outfielders that might be better than Josh Lowe next year. And they've signed 2 of those. Jake Fraley and Mullins could easily have better seasons. But to sign a player that you are for sure is going to have a better season than Josh Lowe in 2026, the amount of money you need to spend, like that list, there's probably a few other names on that list, but it's like Kyle Tucker and like a few other guys. Those are the only guys in free agency that are like definitely going to be better than Josh Lowe next year.
Mike Yastrzemski just signed for 2 years and 24?
And I don't think Yastrzemski is definitely going to be better than Josh Lowe.
I don't think he's on
that
list,
no. I would bet that he is likely to, but it's not a sure thing to upgrade that position.
I put like Yastrzemski for like $11.5 million per year, or you can have Mullins and Fraley for $10 million. And you're looking at, I don't know, it's the Pam Beasley thing. It's the same picture. I'm looking at 3 left-handed outfielders who have good defense. Like Mike Tauchman's another guy he hasn't signed yet. It's another guy that's like, is he better than Josh Lowe? Probably. Am I 100% sure? Would I put how much money am I willing to bet on that? Very little. Very little. Because and I think that's the key is Josh Lowe, he's kind of like the JJ Bleday. We talked about with JJ Bleday. Imagine Josh Lowe is brought in as a cheap flyer and he was on the Marlins instead of the Rays, and he's had 2 down years but a former first round pedigree, and a couple years ago he had a 130 WRC plus. That's what you should look at him here. He does not have a guaranteed starting role. You do not need to lock him into the lineup. He is not a guy you're counting on anymore. He's a guy though that you're like, I like the tools, there's things that he can work on. If he's healthy, if he's right, maybe you got something. If not, move on.
Yeah. All right, we spent 20 minutes on this one, so we should move on to the next one. Steven Matz.
The outfield has been the outfield is the conundrum.
It's vexing and it's frustrating. It gives me a headache to think about too much because of how poor it was a year ago. Another area of concern for the Rays was pitching last year in a weird year there in Steinbrenner Field. They make an addition that could be a starter, could be a reliever, could be a little bit of both. They bring in Steven Matz, formerly of the New York Mets, spent some time with St. Louis, and then finished last year and did a really bang-up job with Boston to end the season, pitching in 21 games for them with a 2.08 ERA. Steven Matz gets brought in on a 1-year deal for 7.5 million, or 2-year deal for $7.5 million a year. So a 2-year, $15 million deal. very much Colin McHugh-esque deal for the Rays here.
Yeah, so Steven Matz, longtime starter. I mean, he was part of that Mets super quad with DeGrom and Syndergaard, and he was a part of that.
And Steven Matz.
And Steven Matz was in there. He was like the four horsemen there.
Yeah.
But injured a lot. A lot of his career has been up and down with injury. A lot of good innings though out there, like when he's been healthy. And last year, first year, being a reliever, mostly, and was excellent. He had a really strong year, and yeah, his time with Boston was really, really good. He got traded at the deadline and was a really good pickup for Boston. He feels like that. You said Colin McHugh. It feels like that. The Rays will probably give him starting because I bet he probably wants to start. But what does that really mean?
What does that really mean? I think you have, like, what's great about free agency is you have agency over your decisions, right? You can have these conversations before you put pen to paper. And so at 2 years, 15 million, I think the Rays are going to use him in as a starter somewhat. But I think the Rays can also, lay out their plan to Steven Matz and say, this is how we might use you. And while you want to start, we want to win games. I know you want to win games too at this stage in your career. So these are some other roles that we envision you potentially pitching in. And I think he is going to be that chameleon next year. I think he'll get a start. He'll have a bulk game, and he'll get a save in a big game as well. Like, he just feels like that type of pitcher that could be used in every type of role next year.
Yeah, and I think Matz I really like this signing. It's very, very surprising. When it came down the pipeline too of like 2-year deal is also like, what?
No, this is very like 2018 to 2021 Rays type move. Like when Eric was cooking, right? Like all the trades he was making were just everything was working. They were hitting on everything. This is the type of move they would make to get a guy that you probably wouldn't have on any of your lists. We had been talking about, signing a pitcher to a 1-year, $15 million deal to be your innings eater, like your Zach Eflin or your Adrian Hauser. You might be able to get those guys for a little less than 15, but that's kind of the going rate if you want to. Yeah, but for a veteran innings eater, it's at least 10 million. So I was thinking the Rays were going to shop in that 10 to $15 million bucket to get a guy that was going to come in and throw at least 150 innings and just be your back end starter. Instead, they got Matz, who could end up being kind of like that Jeffrey Springs reliever to starter transformation this year and provide way more value than $7.5 million, and then still have room to go out and sign one or two other pitchers that are interesting like this. So, like you said, I love this signing, and it feels like a better use of money than to go out and get a Zach Eflin for $15 million.
Well, and it very much so, very, very, very much so. I mean, Matz is definitely tinkering with what he can do. Heavy ground ball rate, doesn't walk anybody, strong command. I think that's the type of guy that can work really well in a run suppression environment like Tropicana Field.
Yes.
You're getting a guy who is kind of like what Zach Littell when he was really, really prime with the Rays in the Trop, which is you're giving up contact. That means you're getting through a lot more innings. And
I'd still love Zach Littell back, by the way.
Still could happen.
I would love that.
The fact that Matt signed for 2 years with the Rays, I think just is a testament to the Rays pitching philosophies, right? Because I think there's been a lot of talk that he wants to start. And I think the Rays aren't necessarily a team that guarantees roles, that says you're definitely going to be starting 150 games and you're going to be in this position.
They do it, but for specific players. Like Pete Fairbanks, they told when he signed the extension, you'll be the closer.
Right.
But that was a different – like that's a guy that you liked and had in the organization.
That's also like I think there's specific things, right? I think we always talked about with the opener strategy where people are like, oh, they're just, Max Scherzer was like, I don't want to go there because like that. And it's just like, well, listen, you're not going to be asked to do that. Like this is a silly thing. I think Steven Matz is a free agent. This is a pretty good opportunity, right? Like whatever the Rays plan is, they aren't lying to Steven Matz. They are laying it out in the pitch deck. of like,
and if it doesn't work out, we talked about it with Mullins. We'll just trade you. Like, don't worry, man. We'll trade you in May. We don't care.
You'll get another spot. I mean, that was the thing with Rich Hill. Like,
right.
Different, much cheaper. Didn't work out clubhouse wise. Yeah.
All right.
We'll send you to
your money is guaranteed. Like,
yeah, you're fine. You got the check is gonna cash. It doesn't matter who. I think Matz is like the type of tinkering pitcher that I think the Rays work well with. I think Matz and the Rays could make a really good marriage in that regard. And I think for 2 years, he's a vet now. Like, he's 34. He's going to be 35 by the time the season's kind of kicking off. I think whatever the Rays are cooking, I think Matz wants to be a part of it. He wants to be in the kitchen. And I think I'm excited about that for a guy who has reinvented himself, who has had to reinvent himself, who has been around. And this is another vet. This is another guy who has pitched in he's pitched in the postseason. He's pitched in the World Series. He's pitched, he has been around some winning organizations. I mean, the Mets had a good heyday when he was there. He's been with the Cardinals. He's been with the Red Sox. Like, these are organizations that are usually pretty smart. They are organizations that I think do a lot of things right. And I think Matz is a guy that I think, I don't know, this is an interesting fit. And I was not thinking about it, but I'm kind of annoyed that I didn't, because I think this is a really cool pick. I was not expecting 2 years either. So I kind of like that. And yeah, if it is like a Colin McHugh type of role where it is a multi-inning swingman, if it's a bridge guy, if it's starter, if it's a 4-inning starter, and you're saying like, this is what we're looking for. I don't know. Do you think this, so the Rays came into the season or the off season, and one of the big things that everybody was reporting was like the Rays were looking for a veteran innings eater.
Yeah.
Steven
Matz is not an innings eater.
He's not eaten innings in a long time. The last time he pitched 150 innings was in 2021 with the Blue Jays, and he went 150.2. The last time before that was 2019. Like, so he's not an innings eater. So do you think they're still in on an innings eater?
I think the rotation just as much in the outfield is in flux. A lot of things could change between now and the start of the season. I think you could see a trade of anyone in that rotation not named McClanahan, and it wouldn't shock me.
Agreed.
We'll get to some trade speculations in a little bit, but the bullpen or the rotation seems very much in flux. The bullpen seems more locked down than the rotation right now, which is a weird thing to say in December. Just with the way things can break, like you still have Ian Seymour, you still have Joe Boyle. I think those guys are fine to have in AAA and bounce up and down and fill in different roles. I also wouldn't mind seeing Joe Boyle in the bullpen. I'm sorry if I'm out on the starting experiment, but I don't want to waste those bullets. He could be valuable in the bullpen this year, I think. So a lot could change. I think the Matz signing gives them options, right? All right, we move on from a Shane Baz. Okay, well, we've got Steven Matz. We can add someone else. Let's go. If we want to move Matz to the bullpen, we've got Joe Boyle or Ian Seymour. Or Jesse Schultens is a guy that they keep bringing up unprompted. So
he does keep coming up in conversation more than you're like,
more than I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. It's just like,
but hey, I like him.
I would keep steering the conversation to Schultens.
Yeah.
But that
also could be classic, like, hey, we've got this guy Jesse Schultens. If anybody wants to trade for him, we would love his 40-man spot back.
That's true.
We really like him. He's going to start for us.
And we're smart. And if he started for us, don't you want him?
Pittsburgh.
I think the Rays. One thing that we both kind of, I guess, are hoping, and maybe that's what we're also putting on this, that makes Steven Matz kind of an exciting signing, is that he's not your traditional, like, here's 5 to 6 innings, grind it out, 4.5 ERA, but he's going to get you 160 innings. That's not him. So that means he kind of fits more into the classic Rays mold, like you're saying, where it's like, deploy him in, you're getting maybe 80 innings out of him. How do you want to use that? And that's what we've been wanting so much for so long, is we don't want to be like every
weird
5
again.
days. Here's
none of this.
Get weird with it.
None of this woke traditional 5-starter crap.
Yes. Let's get back.
Go back to what is this great franchise was built on. Sergio Romo opening games
and suppressing
Yeah.
suppressing arbitration. No, like I think that's the thing with this is that I'm excited to see like how do you utilize his 80 innings, right? 80 to 100 innings. How do you use it? It's not going to be just like, well, every 5 days, Steven Matz is going for you. I mean, it might be, but
It
like
might be.
he won't survive it. But
Yeah,
like,
but you've also got like Yoenis Gomez is interesting. Steven Wilson is interesting.
exactly.
Could you go with those guys as 2 or 3 innings, and then Matz for 2 or 3 innings, and then now you're in the back end of your bullpen? So,
and they kind of did that with Rasmussen this year a bit, where they kind of like had him and Boyle kind of piggybacked. Like it was like you're both starting. Like we're just going to try to use these 2 guys. And bullpen or starter doesn't really matter, but we're getting this many innings out of both of these guys today, if ideal conditions allow. And so, yeah, maybe you go into it and it's like Steven Matz starts if that's very important to him, and then he opens, and then you have an extended open, and then you have Gomez, Wilson, Uceda, like 2-2. You could have like a bunch of 2 inning like stints. So I'm excited with it. Get weird with it. Fun trade, fun signing, because this is now 3 major league deals.
And we still feel like there's like gaps on the roster. So like, how are you gonna fill those?
Absolutely. And so this has been a very odd offseason for the Rays, because they have been very active in free agency, which they never are, and they have not really done any trades. The only trade has been Yonel Cure, which was kind of a roster.
Let's cover that one really quickly. Yeah,
that was the start of those pre winter meetings to kind of get a little winter meetings spice to it.
This is one, and he's gonna get his shot. So I mean, he'll be in Philly, and he's on their 40 man. So he didn't. Actually, does he have to be on their 40 man if he had been DFA'd and then traded for?
He is added to their 40 man. I don't know if he has to be, but he has been added.
He has been added to the 40 man. So he's going to get his shot.
Actually, he does, because it was a trade. He did not get through waivers.
Okay.
So that's where was it Gomez? It was Gomez who got released, passed through waivers, and then was traded from Boston to the Rays. Because of that, he does not need to be added to the 40 man. Cure did not make it through waivers.
Gotcha.
He was traded before that, so he does.
So it was one of those that I always felt he was added to the 40 man too early. The Rays clearly did that for a reason. Like this happens with relievers more than any other position, because you feel like they don't need to go into AAA as much, or they don't need as long to prepare in the minors. Like if a guy is 21 and has really good stuff in high A, he could, theoretically do decent in the big leagues.
The strike zone's kind of the same everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're throwing 98 mile an hour cutters, like, oh, we'll take you. So Cure gets added a couple years ago, and for this year finally dealt with some injuries and some other things. This year finally gets up to AAA as a starter, right? I never thought he projected out as a starter. He really relies heavily on his cutter, which is a really good cutter, but I don't think has a deep enough arsenal or good enough arsenal to start games. At least not now. Like he could develop, a third pitch. So the Rays, really don't know what to do with the 40-man spot. Didn't look like he was kind of in the calculations for this year's bullpen, at least not in a big role. Maybe a come up for a couple of weeks here or there role. So they ship him off to Philly. They get another guy who you could tell me more about, like his name. Who'd they get?
Tommy McCollum.
Tommy
McCollum, and he's 6'5", 260. He's a big old
Holy
boy.
Cow.
He is a stout guy. But Tommy McCollum is like the type that would be a stout. That's not a short, spindly guy. That is a guy who can put back a sixer or two.
There were days where my Florida State football fandom, we used to sign guys named Tommy McCollum that played left tackle and were from South Georgia. And now the Rays are getting them trades.
Put him in the bullpen. Like good overhand delivery, which is always interesting. I feel like so many people are going like sidearm and like kind of some like straight over the top. Middle fastball, like 95, pretty good sinker. solid. He kind of feels sort of like Yonel Kure with options, with more options still remaining. Like bullpen guy, had some good success last year in his first taste at AAA. And the thing with that deal was it was Kure. A lot of teams were kind of from what I was hearing, a lot of teams were calling about Kure.
I'm sure, yeah.
And a lot of people were interested. So there was like the idea of DFAing him to create Mullins' roster spot was that it's during the winter meetings. You're going to be talking with a lot of people. That's a guy you're going to be able to deal to somebody.
Yeah.
And so you kind of it's kind of like putting the clock on the deal. Like, all right. And the Rule 5 draft was kind of part of that. The Rays did not add anybody and they did not have anybody there. But that was sort of the thing was the Phillies, they agreed to the deal with the Phillies. And McCollum, from what I heard, was basically the guy that they had circled if he doesn't get taken. So it was kind of like a player to be named later scenario, but it was basically like, as it's going, if he doesn't get selected, he's your guy. And then it's probably like a list of guys. Like if it's not McCollum, it's like this guy and this guy. But they were up for that thing. And that's why the deal was announced at the beginning of the day. It was not completed until like minutes after the Rule 5. And then immediately that name comes out. And so kind of a neat little bit of like business there that's happening in the middle of the lobby.
Yeah, and seems like he could just kind of slot in, be a AAA, depth pitcher that does some interesting things and is huge, and see what happens. Right? Pitched at
Get him into
Wingate
Durham.
University.
You have options, so he can be a guy that you can cycle, not on the 40-man, I believe, and so you can add him and then cycle him up into the shuttle.
Yeah, definitely.
If you're in Durham, you got a live arm, you're probably going to get action. If it's not this year, it'll definitely be next year. So you kind of reset the clock, right? You kind of, Kure had run out of room. I believe good friend of the site and the pod, Steve Kinsella, was saying that Kure might get a fourth option year due to the injuries. He faced quite a few.
Yeah, that would make sense.
But if he doesn't, he's kind of out of options, and now you have to have him on that. And we've talked about so extensively how in your bullpen, no options, it's a killer.
So Kure, a product of needing to be protected by the Rule 5 draft, which I understand in its basics, like why it exists. It protects, prevents you from just hoarding guys in the minors that could get big league opportunities elsewhere. It makes a lot of sense. And oftentimes it is made for and beneficial to a lot of fringe players that wouldn't get their shot otherwise. And we've seen the Rays benefit from that. Yeah,
Shane Smith with the White Sox or Mike Vassell with the White Sox. White Sox, basically, a lot of opportunities. The land of milk and honey.
But it feels like Kure kind of got like the short straw here, like getting added so early to now he's going to run out of options before he's ever even sniffed the big leagues. And that feels like kind of more of a raw deal for him.
And that happens sometimes. Like, was it Ronaldo Hernandez? Was similar?
Yeah.
No, it was maybe not Ronaldo Hernandez. Different catcher for the Rays. But yeah, taken in the Rule 5, you're not going to stick around, and it kind of can burn through. Your career can kind of be derailed because you're just bouncing around. Yeah. Now it sort of seems like the new,
or because you're protected and you're being held in the minors because you got added too early and there's really no path for you until you get traded. So I hope he gets his shot. I think decent reliever in there.
It's the Phillies, so Christopher Sanchez 2.0.
Yeah, he could also just kind of turn out to be a great starter there.
The Phillies might be like, hey, have you thought about adding 2 more pitches? And
yeah, I guess I should have thought twice about a trade to the Phillies there. I should have been like, do we want to do this again?
I don't think you can always spend your
That went from like a nothing trade to like oh my gosh, we definitely won. Curtis Mead is going to be an all-star. We definitely lost.
We can't ever trade with the Phillies.
Just a bad trade. The Christopher Mead or Curtis Mead, Christopher Sanchez trade.
The rest of the winter meetings.
Yeah.
A lot of action, but not a lot of action. Like there was a lot of like every day there was reporters being like, all right, once this happens, the floodgates will be off. And then nothing would happen. And then the next day they'd be like, okay, after the Rule 5, the trades will come flying.
And we talked about this in the last episode. Baseball needs to, like, I thought this was a fine winter meetings. It was a really fun one to follow. There was lots of good TV, lots of good podcasting, a lot of good writing. I've just consumed a lot of baseball media the last few days. And I love that about the winter meetings because everyone's there. You get some great quotes. Like, there's always something to talk about, even if there's no moves made. And there were some big moves made. You know, Pete Alonso goes to Baltimore, Edwin Diaz to the Dodgers. There was lots of trade talks. Like again, this is where it never boiled over.
The rumors were getting pretty good.
The rumors were great. And lots of big names being thrown around. We'll get to some of those. But I do think baseball needs to do something. Like we got it. Like the winter meetings could be like, and it already is TV, but it could be appointment television for more casual baseball fans. Not only is everyone like in this same hotel convention center, they're all like drinking like the whole time. It's a boozy event.
They're
infamously.
Loose. They're away from their families. They're
and you probably just need to lean in and do it in Vegas every year to like add to that mystique. Like I want to hear about the trades that went down at the blackjack table later tonight.
Which
it's definitely Preller playing blackjack the most. He seems like the type that is just like
he's hitting on 17. He's hitting on 17 every time.
He's going against the book, and everyone is gonna he's gonna take the dealer's bust card, and then everyone loses. But I thought the winter meetings were good, right? I mean, like some of the biggest moves that we'll see this offseason went down.
We had some good stuff. And I think the rumors were really good because the other thing with the winter meetings, a lot of stuff happens. You know, people get drunk in the lobby and they like, let's get this done. And stuff happens at like way late hours. Like
I love that too.
PM my time out here on the West Coast. And I'm like, good Lord, guys, go to bed. But I would say there was also a lot of moves that didn't happen that like I would prefer a little bit more crumbs, but I think overall like pretty solid stuff. You have Pete Alonso, which is one of the bigger hitting free agents, but Kyle Tucker does not sign. Pete Alonso does. Edwin Diaz, one of the bigger pitching, free agents, goes to the Dodgers. Then you also have the other tasty teaser. They got Scott Boras, to do his little vaudeville shtick.
I'm very tired of that now, and I don't hate Scott Boras, but
I agree with Sam Miller, who said on his pod recently that just like the puns are one thing, but like why are they all bad? Like it's all terrible puns.
And you can just ask AI to do it now.
He might be. Is he? Does he have a Boras bot to like produce some more of these? But yeah, you got Boras doing his song and dance, his vaudeville act, and Scooble to the Dodgers, lot of smoke, crazy amounts of smoke, player names being listed, and people saying like it's a done deal, but Dodgers have to sign him to an extension, and like Scooble is a Boras client, and like that's pretty rare to do a trade and a signing, like an extension. That's very unlike Boras. Never happens. Still a lot of smoke there. And then for the Rays, this is the big one, was that like Ketel Marte, the Diamondbacks come into this with, I don't think a lot of people know, like, what are the Diamondbacks really do? Like, what's their direction? I think Marte is a guy who's under control for 5 more years, pretty
at a team friendly, below market, very much below market value.
Like it increases, but like not by enough that you're like, we got to unload this guy. But I think they are looking at it as like similar to Scooble. I think you're a team that's good, but you are like, if we can get a deal, if we can get a team to like really pay our price, we can still compete and use this as that springboard. And so there was a lot of big rumors, like the Red Sox, because they were in on Alonso.
I think Boston makes sense for a Marte.
Marte's been there. Who else was in there? Oh, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati have been in on them and Brandon Lowe. Brandon Lowe has been linked to Arizona as potentially a piece to go to Marte. The Rays have been in on this Marte thing. This has been enough people talking that makes me think there's more than just the courtesy. The Rays check in on everybody. They price and force on everybody. this has been multiple days with multiple different sources going
Yeah.
there.
Legos, you missed the earlier part of the show. We were agreeing with you that Matz was better than Nephilim. That was great. We could talk about Brandon Lowe. I'm not. I would hate to see Brandon Lowe traded, but I want to talk about Ketel Marte more first. Like, obviously, this goes hand in hand. I think one of the rumors was that Brandon Lowe could be going back to Arizona, which I don't know if that makes sense for them. Although it is just like a shorter commitment. It's 1 year as opposed to like 6 more years from Marte at below market value. You could just pay Lowe 11.5, which is cheaper than Marte. Again, I don't know if the Diamondbacks are penny pinching over here, but looking at
books.
The Diamondbacks might think like, okay, we're really in a rough spot right now. We're kind of in like this 500 purgatory. Like we don't really see a real path forward to like winning the division soon. So like Ketel Marte is really good now, and he's going to probably continue to be good for the next few years. But will he be part of the next good Diamondbacks team is the question they have to ask themselves. Or do we need to pivot, add some other pieces, and then build our team around, Corbin Carroll? And they have a lot of other interesting pieces like Geraldo Perdomo. Like they have really good players on this team. So like you said, can we trade Marte and remain competitive and really gear up to be fully back in the next 2 seasons? I don't think that's a bad plan. It would take a lot. Like I think if you're the Diamondbacks, you're not under any pressure to trade him. Question is, will any of these teams step up to meet your price? Because it's clear why he would have a ton of suitors. He makes sense for teams that are trying to build back up, like the Rays, or they're really trying to find their last piece before they go for another championship, like Boston. So it makes a lot of sense for everyone involved, and it also makes like for the price that's needed to be reached, it wouldn't shock me if like nothing happens and Arizona's just testing the market. Maybe they revisit this market in July.
They don't have any incentive to necessarily, they have to move, right? So like, I think you ask for the world first and see how flexible teams are. How much stomach is there for what you're asking for? And if somebody's like, I'm listening, you go, oh,
right.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, let's talk instead of, hanging up angrily. I think you don't start at like, we'll take anything. We're desperate. We're broke, actually. I shouldn't have tried to put that 12-leg parlay. What was I thinking? You start from, there's no incentive. Like the value for Marte next year is probably not significantly lower. He is a year older. Right. You're losing out on that prime years, but it's not a deal that necessarily goes into like, it is a deal that I think goes into, he's probably not at second base anymore. So there is a problem there, but overall you're getting enough value that this is a free agent deal that he would not sign. So you would take Ketel Marte for 5 years at this remaining.
Yeah.
You're not getting it on the open market.
He is entering his age 32 season,
mm-hmm.
and he is under contract for 32, 33, 34, 35 through his age 36 season. So, like, one of the general rules of thumb for projection, this is not perfect, is that, like, once you get past your prime, you lose, like, half a win a year on average. So he was at 4.6 wins last year. So let's say he's, how many years do we say he had left? 5. So in an option for a 6th, a player option. So let's say 6. So he's worth, 4.1, then 3.6, then 3.1, then 2.6, then 2.1 in his age like 36 season.
And that's when you're like,
that's still league average.
That's still pretty good. Yeah. That's still like, you are paying, and it's what, 22 million at that point? And a WAR, like it's not the same as before, but like,
and the player option's not big. It's for an $11.5 million in 2031. It dropped off.
Most of the time, I don't know what a win costs now, but it used to be like 1 win is 10 million.
I think it's closer to like, it's like 16 on the free agent market right now.
Which means it's a very valuable deal. Like I think this is there's something, there's not a lot of dead years there where I'm like, you're underwater on this deal.
I would love Ketel Marte because I think he is a star player, and I think he just makes this team better today and for future years. So I would like if the Rays made that trade, my first reaction is not going to be like, oh, what's the return? But I am going to be like, what's this return? Like, I'm not going to let it cloud my excitement that the Rays went out and got maybe the best player on the trade market.
There's very few offers that would make me go like, oh, I don't know if I like this. Like, there's very few. There's a lot that I would be like, I'm down for.
I guess it's me, like, I'm looking at it less with reason. It's exciting to go. It's exciting to go into a season when you're on that end of the trade, and it's something that on a blockbuster trade like a Ketel Marte, the Rays really haven't gone into a year with a player that they've acquired via free agency or trade that you're like, oh, I mean, it's been a long time. It's been like the hit show, right? And that didn't work. So, like, it's been a long time since.
The other big key of this is if the Rays do that, you are losing Brandon Lowe, whether that's to Arizona or to another team. But the key is, okay, going into this next season, say steamer projections for Brandon Lowe for next year, 2 wins above replacement, 109 WRC plus, 323 WOBA, 24 homers. Ketel Marte, steamer projections, 26 homers, 136 WRC plus, with again 100 being league average, and 367 WOBA. Like, that is a significantly, and a 4.5 win player. Like, that's a significant upgrade. That is a significant upgrade, and you still get whatever Brandon Lowe gets you. So, like, if you use Brandon Lowe in a trade for Marte, great, you've got the upgrade. If you don't, then you can still trade Brandon Lowe for something else, right? Like a starter or an outfielder or whatever you need. Like, I think that is you have to look at when it comes to these trades, Rays have to do, if you're doing multiple moves, you see what happens. This is why I think going to, like, today, if you're like, what does the lineup look like now? Is it like for next season? Is so it's you can't do it because it's like we're in the middle of the puzzle, and you're like, this puzzle doesn't make any sense. Half of it's missing, and it's like, we're not done yet. We're still putting pieces in. I think it's really hard to stop a Rays off season at any point and be like, okay, what does it look like right now? Because it's like, well, maybe messy, but you got to wait till all the pieces are there and then evaluate. And maybe you're like, it's still messy, but but it's not done. It's definitely not done yet. So I agree with you. If Marte is like, Rays acquire Ketel Marte, I'm celebrating. And then we'll see what the return is. And maybe I'm like, oof, okay, but we got Marte. Yeah. That's a big upgrade. And then I'm sad that Brandon Lowe is going to be going, but I'm
probably other top prospects and like another like everyday player on the roster.
I think one of the last rumors publicly was, which I actually don't think this is true. One Arizona beat writer was saying Shane Baz and Ryan Pepio, and I've heard both of those names involved as asks from Arizona, but I'm it could have evolved, but like I've not. That's the first I've heard of them packaged together. So I'm wondering if he's hearing both of those names coming up and putting them together. Like that could be a bit of that.
I don't know. But it feels redundant to like to include 2 middle of the rotation starters. I mean, Baz is like 4-5 with a 2-3 upside, and Pepio I think is a 3 with 2 upside, and then like could be a 1 at his very best.
It's like pick the one you like the most with the best,
and then build it with other pieces. I think the Rays have other interesting pitching prospects. You wonder though, like with what they're giving up, again, everyday, all-star level player, like do they want a controllable big league position player to supplement like some of the, I mean, the only untouchable or it's Yandy Diaz, right? Maybe it's a Yandy Diaz who goes over there and they're like, maybe that allows you to keep Brandon Lowe, but maybe they're like, you know what? I don't know who their first baseman is now in Arizona or their DH. Pavin Smith at first base and Adrian Del Castillo as the DH. So as much as a Brandon Lowe might make sense, I don't know. We'll take Yandy Diaz, the guy that just never stops hitting. I don't know and that would hurt. So we'll
How do
see.
you do? Okay, let me throw some random trades at you for Marte, and when do you get sick and you say no?
Okay.
So Shane Baz and Ryan Pepio, and let's say Brandon Lowe. They just go They go weirdly all pros, no prospects.
That would make me sick because like you need to field a team in 2026. No, I'd say no. I'd say whatever. You can replace those other guys. We can spend more in free agency. We've got new owners. All right, we're just gonna go buy whoever we want. So yeah, no, I'd say I would not feel sick yet over that return.
Okay, Shane Baz, and let's go the high upside. So of your top prospects, Carson Williams and Brody Hopkins.
Baz, Williams, and Hopkins.
Yeah. Pitcher for that's major league pitcher. The next hotness and
no, that doesn't make me sick. That doesn't make me sick. I think that's a hefty return. The Rays could come out as net losers on this, but that doesn't make me sick.
Now, I don't know if Carson Williams is a guy that they would want because you have Perdomo, who is really good. So you just mentioned Pavin Smith as your starting first baseman.
Yeah.
You're Arizona. You're sharing a border with Mexico. So why not get a budding Mexican all-star, Jonathan Aranda, and say Ryan Pepio, and let's keep Brody Hopkins in there because that's the Rays' best pitching prospect.
That would make me sick.
I think I'm a no on that.
That would make me sick because Aranda is in his prime years. He is ready. He had an injury that he looked really good when he came back for a very brief period at the end of the last season. That's going to be like that's an injury that can change the trajectory of someone's career, and I hope that's not going to be the case with Jonathan Aranda. I don't think it will be, but Jonathan Aranda has proven he's done everything he needs to do at every level, including the big leagues. Now he's an all-star.
Yeah,
and he's got so many years of control left. He's going to be cheap because he's playing first base and DHing, so he's going to be cheap. You could extend him. You could go through the arbitration process. You can go year to year with him. It's going to be cheap. And his hitting not too far off of Ketel Marte's levels. So no, I'm not swapping my cheap Ketel Marte for expensive Ketel Marte.
His projection for next year: 121 WRC plus, 344 WOBA. Like pretty. You're in the same.
That range. On top of Pepio, who's got multiple years left. And on top of Hopkins, who's your top pitching prospect now? I think
that's too much.
I think you are like Jonathan Aranda is maybe your best hitter right now.
Yeah. This is also, by the way, like Aranda had a breakout. His WOBA was 381. His ex-WOBA, his expected 381. It was very justified.
No, also, that dude rakes.
He rakes. Amazing year in 2025. Last year, 113 WRC plus. Year before that, 101. Like small time. He hits. He just hits. Yeah. Like he has been a guy that has hit. So yeah, I think that's my breaking point. I think you could do Hopkins in a trade with one of those starters, but he can't get Aranda too. So like the most that could be offered.
I'm fine with trading Hopkins. Hopkins is the type of player you give up if you want to, and I don't think this rationale works with trades nearly as much. I think you have to be much more rational when you're thinking about trades. But what is the Andrew Friedman quote about? You'll never sign if you're signing free agents, like you're not rational. I don't remember the exact.
If you're rational about every free agent, you'll finish third.
Yeah, you just won't sign them. Like you have to overpay. And I don't think that's very much the case in trades. But
it's not the case in trades because you should be more rational with that. Because free agency is just money.
Yeah.
Which is very easy for Andrew
Friedman. And it's all made up for billionaires.
But that is true, right? Like if you are the Dodgers and you have infinite money, you can absorb, you can spend a ton of money on Tanner Scott and he can suck and get hurt.
Yeah, you can afford to make the mistakes.
Edwin Diaz again. And then next year when Edwin Diaz blows out his arm, you can be like, whoever's next, just who cares? Keep tossing him on the pile because it's just money. But it is a little different when it's like, okay, and they might be balking at like a Skubal trade where the Tigers are like, we're emptying it out. We're emptying it out because this is the 2-time Cy Young winner. But we're emptying it out. So I'm agree. I think Hopkins and Aranda I can't do. But if I'm just saying, if you're saying take one out and we'll do a deal, I'm taking Aranda out and not Hopkins. And I'm trying everything possible to get both of those guys out. I would say like Pepio or Boz. You can pick your choice. Brandon,
you can have Summerhill and
you can have
Ty Johnson.
You can have Ty Johnson, Trey Morgan, Chandler Simpson. How
Theo Gillen?
Fun with
Theo
Chandler
Gillen?
Simpson and Carbon.
So okay, let's say Pepio, Hopkins, and Theo Gillen.
I mean, I think that is I think the limit where
that feels like a trade. That feels like
I do.
Hopkins closer prospect, Gillen a few years out.
Ooh. You know what? That's a good trade.
Like that one. That's one that
both sides hurt a little bit.
That's a what's the Michael Jordan line on the golf course? Like, how much do you want to play for? And he goes, whatever makes you uncomfortable. Like whatever it is that like just makes you a little uneasy. Like that'd be that offer to the Rays where I think they'd want to do it. But you think about what Theo Gillen could be. You think about what Brody Hopkins could be, and it makes you lose a little sleep at night.
I think I need one more round at the winter meetings bar, and I think I'm in.
Is Alec Thomas redundant now? Because I know you were an Alec Thomas guy a year ago, but I don't think he makes sense.
Toss him in there. Why not?
Okay.
What's another center field left-handed? just get all left-handed bats. You know what? Okay, how about this? You do that. Toss in another, like I don't know. Then toss in Trey Morgan for your first base, but I want Brandon Pfaadt back. We're getting bigger. Let's do
Brandon
it.
Pfaadt.
That's Shane Boz. You just got Shane Boz.
Brandon Pfaadt in the Trop Lab in the Trop. I mean,
like Theo Gillen is a big loss. Brody Hopkins could be DeGrom 2.0, but you know what you have? Brandon Pfaadt's a major league pitcher right now and has had some great postseason starts. And Ketel Marte is an all-star.
Yeah. Brody Hopkins could very well be a breaking point for the Rays.
And I think that's where like you have the Boston Red Sox. When we talk about the Red Sox, that's where like Peyton Tolle is probably there similar, right?
As much as we've dreamt about like what this deal could look like and why it could be a really big thing for the Rays in 2026, it feels like they're in a position to be outspent. And I think they go into these trade talks with that like Neander's okay with finishing second. Like at the end of the day, if Boston comes in with a better offer, okay, they took the bigger risk. That's fine on that. They had to trade away 4 prospects to get this guy. Okay, well, we'll see if Ketel Marte works out for them this year, but we feel like we can beat him in the long run.
If you losing,
I'm not saying they're price checking. I'm not saying they're in there for that sole purpose.
But you don't let the trade go away without giving you a. You make Arizona really question it, and you make Boston have to give up Wailea Abreu and Peyton Tolle and
which this could also be a 3-team deal. Could the Rays get in on the Ketel Marte trade and not get Ketel Marte? Could we get involved?
That would be a very Rays.
If it's like Cincinnati and maybe we still Matt McClain or you get you said Brandon Lowe to Arizona still and maybe Shane Boz, and then you get someone else. Like,
what about Pittsburgh and O'Neal Cruz comes back? What if Ketel Marte and O'Neal Cruz?
Jared Triolo seems to be like a right-handed infielder that could fill the gap that you still have in that spot on your team.
That would be a great trade if there's like a 3-team trade, and it's like O'Neal Cruz and Ketel Marte are in this trade, and those
Jared Jones
connect to Jared Jones goes somewhere. O'Neal Cruz and Ketel Marte, and they all go to different locations.
Yeah. Listen.
Throw Cincinnati in there too.
This is why we need to be invited to the winter meetings next year. We can make these trades happen. We're just going to stir the pot, throw out crazy trades. So, yeah, I think that's going to do it. The Bucks are getting ready to kick off here in just a few minutes. We wanted to wrap up before that. We didn't want to compete with the Bucks. So let's do Bucks Minute really quick to wrap up the show. Like, playing Atlanta at home tonight. You know, when you're the division leaders, these are the type of games you think we should win tonight's game, right? We're the better team. We should win. But tell me why you either do or don't feel that way.
The Bucks are playing like crap. And they're hurt. They're stale
and playing bad.
And they're
not a good
bad.
combination.
Clearly Baker Mayfield is hurt. Like, he is severely hurt, and he's playing through injury.
Yeah, like playing like a below replacement level quarterback.
He has been, since the bye, he has been the worst quarterback in all of the NFL by dropback. Was it EPA? I think.
Yeah.
Like, worse than what quarterback you want to think about. He's worse than that. He is the dead last. He was like 37th, I think.
Went from like best at like the start of the season.
But like, he had a clear shoulder injury. And so like, I don't want to give too much like blame to him because I do think he's hurt.
And your backup was coaching high school ball last year. And I'm not talking about Phillip Rivers.
Yes. Emeka Buka's dropping more passes than any wide receiver in the NFL. He's at a 48%.
It's been a tale of two seasons, 100%.
It's been a tale of two seasons. So the Bucks have absolutely fallen apart. The defense is extremely bad. Like, it's one of the worst. They are really bad.
And they haven't been as banged up on defense. They are still dealing with stuff, but they have not been as banged up.
They have had some issues where there's a lot of scheme issues that are not just like you're missing pieces.
Which
you can't have one piece away.
When you've had the same defense for how many years? Several years now under Todd Bowles, and he's been your head coach for 3 or 4 years now.
This is the big issue right now tonight that I'm very like. This is a game you have to win. You have to win.
Oh yeah.
You had to win last week.
You should fire coordinators. You should fire like Grizzard if the offense can't score.
Like, you have to win tonight. Atlanta has been a mess, and they are way more hurt than you. Way more hurt.
Yeah.
And so you have to win tonight because you're playing Carolina next week, and that is like the whole season. If you get a win tonight and you win against Carolina, the division's yours.
Yeah.
You got it. All of this mess, you get
a long week before you go into the biggest game, another big game next week.
These are 2 wins. Like, you had to win against New Orleans and you lost. That was a must win. This is the must win because your postseason chances drop from 80% to 51% if you lose tonight. It's one of the biggest drops in playoff percentage. So this is huge. And what scares me is Kirk Cousins has picked apart Todd Bowles' defense so many times because all he's going to do is hit over the middle. He's going to pick wide receivers are going to sit down at 8 to 10 yards deep in the middle, and he is going to hit that wide open every play, and it's going to be down the field again and again.
Just can't get a stop. Draining.
And he just drains.
All right. With that being said, give me your score prediction.
Let's go 24-27.
Falcons. Okay, I was going to go 24-21 Bucks.
Okay.
So by one score game, I think it'll be like maybe a field goal as clock expires, but there was like a penalty, so you had to re-kick it. He missed the first one, and then he had to get a penalty because they lined up offside trying to block it, and then that's what you make it on. So
I like it. I think this is going to be the real losers tonight are going to be people watching this because I think this is going to be another Thursday slop fest. But
you might just be better to like turn on the new Amazon Prime document. No free ads. I'm not promoting it, but it's about the Bucks.
Absolutely.
And like just check on the game periodically on your phone.
Yes. There you go.
Enjoy
that. Get the big screen for the raise the flags.
Yeah.
And then the small screen, the laptop is for that.
I'm sure they'll be promoting. Kickoff's in 2.5 minutes, so we probably missed all of pregame here. But thank you to everyone who's stuck with us. Viewership has dropped, so I'm just only assuming they're heading over to the Bucks game.
Enjoy. Go Bucks. Raise the flags. I'm down on them, but go Bucks. I do hope they get a win. They need it.
We need to win. And this is a game you can and should win. So I'm not like feeling super full of dread tonight, but. That is going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. Thank you guys for listening. We've been live on youtube.com/@raiseyourvoice. So you've been watching on YouTube. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and turn on those notifications so you can join us in the chat. Legos is with us like every week. throwing us questions, having a little back and forth. That's what we love to see. So you can join us live, or of course you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. As always, head on over to draysbay.com. Check out tons of great Rays coverage on that site now that we're in the off season and roster moves are coming fast and quick. Once again, thank you guys for listening.